Let's go! LSU football fans, you're gonna love this. TYGEE HILL commits to Ed Orgeron. Are you kidding me? Could this class of 2022 be Ed Orgeron's best yet? Yes and potentially no. So we're going to dive deep into what's going to happen next. So subscribe to the channel if you love deep discussions such as this one. And there is some kind of sad news because one staffer has decided to leave the program. We'll save that for later, though, because I want to focus on the positive. TYGEE HILL, 6'3", 280, a 4-star defensive tackle out of Edna Carr in NOLA. So, he's got a huge smile, big personality, and, you know, some people thought he was going to go to Florida State. That's where Destin Hill went last season, a wide receiver out of Edna Carr. So, look, this could potentially not be over. He obviously could decommit. In fact, if he were to do that, he'd be the second defensive tackle from South Louisiana to do that. Sean Washington, another 2022 defensive tackle, decided to decommit as well. So, yes, that can certainly happen. But what we do know is, well, defensive tackle is not the absolute hugest position of need because LSU was very young there with Jaquelin Roy, Jacobian Guillory, Mason Smith, Eric Taylor, and so on and so on. So, yes, it's very good that you got a 4-star defensive tackle, but there's also going to be some other players in this class, which we will get to in just a second, that LSU really needs because they are at huger positions of need. So let's take a look at the LSU class of 2022 as a whole before we get into a few targets that LSU will be after. Number 2 national rank. They were number 3. They jumped Notre Dame at number 2. Now, once again, it's still very early, and a lot of these kids could decommit. But I don't see that happening unless LSU has a disastrous season and coaches leave, and you guys know the rest. But number 1 in the SEC for right now. However, the 2 players that are the most important players in this class, Walker Howard and Will Campbell, 5-star defensive, 5-star quarterback, 5-star offensive tackle. That's just absolutely massive because anytime you can get a 5-star quarterback in your own state, it's obviously a huge thing, and you guys that are diehards know how much I love Walker Howard and Will Campbell, offensive tackle, offensive line. There's going to be a lot of them leaving after this next season, and it's not just Will Campbell. When you look at this class overall, they have Bo Bordelon, they have Lucas Taylor also in this class. So let's get to some guys that LSU will be after. And I think these next 2 guys are by far their most important targets moving forward. So the first is Jacoby Matthews, 5-star safety out of Ponchatoula. That's where TJ Finley's from. They also had Donovan Campbell a few years ago who ended up at Louisiana Tech. But still, this has been a very fruitful area for LSU, and he is a 5-star, and he's at a position of need in safety. So Jacoby Matthews plays a wide range of positions. He's very versatile, he's an amazing athlete, and he is a safety. Now, some people view him as a linebacker at the next level, but I'm just going to go with safety. Now, look, Florida and Alabama, obviously 2 schools. Is my head blocking it? Am I blocking the graphic? Anyway, Florida and Alabama are obviously both after him pretty hard. Wherever he ends up, they're going to be getting a good football player. I do think LSU ends up getting him because historically LSU does get their 5-star recruits in the state of Louisiana, especially at defensive back. And you look at the safety depth. Yes, LSU just had their best safety. LSU just had their best safety class ever in Sage Ryan, Derek Davis Jr., and Matthew Langlois. But Todd Harris is going to be leaving after next year, and there's still a lot of playing time to be had. Now, if Jacoby Matthews doesn't commit, there is Kendrick Law, who is a 4-star athlete in the state of Louisiana. We'll get to him in a second. But there's other options out there. Durante Jones is already after Bryce Anderson, who was once an LSU commit. He decommitted. He's a high-level safety. And Byron Allen, is another safety out of Aledo who was once committed to LSU. He decommitted and then ended up going to Texas. A lot of people feel Bryce Anderson will end up at Texas as well, but Durante Jones is trying as hard as he can to make that happen. So I do think LSU will find a way to get another safety in this class. Look, they're already ahead of schedule at defensive back. They have 3 corners that are already committed in the class of 2022, but there's still more work to be done in the secondary. So that is the first player, and I think Jacoby Matthews is obviously, anytime there's a 5-star in the state of Louisiana, he is such a gigantic player that you, I don't want to say must, that you really need to get. Now, we move to player number 2, which is Emory Jones, a 4-star offensive guard at the Catholic High in Baton Rouge. I think LSU will end up getting him. They were ahead of this for quite some time now. And look, this offensive line class, James Craig desperately needed it to be great, and I do think it'll be great with Bo Bordelon, Lucas Taylor, Walker Howard, Will Campbell, and potentially Emory Jones. Now, of course, there's some 5-star linemen thereafter, Devon Campbell being one of those, a guard out of Texas. But if LSU can just get all the offensive linemen in the state of Louisiana, it'll overall be a good offensive line class. So now, how about a fun question? Could this be LSU's best class yet for the class of 2022? And the answer to that is yes. This year, for the class of 2022, you're looking right now, look at all these players that are currently not yet committed. Now, of course, you see a lot of LSU's, but I want you to notice this number right here, number 18, a 4-star player, Austin Osbury out of U High in Baton Rouge, which is essentially on LSU's campus. 18, that is the highest amount of 4- and 5-star prospects in the state of Louisiana since 2016, where there was 21. So that's an extremely high number, especially this early in the cycle. There's some of these guys, I think Jordan Allen will eventually be a 4-star recruit. He's yet to get his offer. Cam East is also a very interesting player. So, yes, this could be, because this could be the best year of talent ever in the state of Louisiana. And there's obviously some other players that LSU's after. Now, you're currently looking at the history in 4- and 5-star players in the state of Louisiana, and you notice the number next to it, that's the amount of players that are in Texas. Now, of course, Texas is far more competitive because of all the Power 5 schools, most notably Texas and Texas A&M, and Alabama's had a lot of success in the state of Texas. And if you're interested, we did a deep dive on LSU's history getting kids from the state of Texas. I'll link it down below. But if LSU can get some of the elite players from the state of Texas to add to this class, along with hitting Georgia, they already have Rom out of Georgia, and keep hitting Florida and just nationwide, that will be huge. But as is the case with every LSU football team, the base of the team are Louisiana players. It always has been, it always will be, and that's going to be huge moving forward. The state of Louisiana continues to produce a lot of high-level players. That's not only the case for 2022, that's going to be the case for 2023 and beyond. So, yes, this could be the best LSU has to come. I mean, look, the future is bright with the new coordinators, right? That's why this year is going to be so big, because if you have another year where you're, 7-8 wins, if you're at 500, then recruits may or may not start looking elsewhere. So, the actual coaching of the team is going to be so important, because then you could start seeing some attrition of these Louisiana kids. They might start going elsewhere if the team is no longer the LSU that we know and love. Some kind of sad news here. Christian LaCouture, an analyst for the LSU program, has decided to leave LSU for a new opportunity with Mockler Beverage, according to Jacques Doucet of WAFB 9. So yeah, Jacques, of course, is, always accurate, and Christian LaCouture, we all loved him. A former number 18, a defensive lineman under ED ORGERON, who worked as an analyst, was a big part in getting Mason Smith to LSU. I think it was also referenced for Hill's commitment today. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I wish he could have stayed. I loved Christian LaCouture. I knew him personally. But this just shows you how hard the coaching profession is, because you have to sacrifice so much. Christian LaCouture is getting ready to get married, and, if you want to have a real normal personal life, the coaching profession is not the absolute best thing, especially at the college level where you're constantly recruiting and, staying on top of kids in the recruiting game. It can be exhausting. So when you get a sales job at Mockler Beverage, you're going to have better hours and an overall probably less stress-filled life. Of course, as always, live streams Tuesdays and Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Central. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Ooh, hey, didn't tell me what we're having tonight, so we'll see. I'm kind of excited. Let's go. Maybe some chicken wings. Let's go.